Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just a bunch of different DC news that's dropped over the past, I want to say a week, but it might be less or it might be a bit more. Not too sure. It depends when this video goes out, actually, probably. This goes over a few different things, some legitimate, this is actually happening news, and there's just some sort of rough confirmations, and then also a bit of rumor denying as well from James Gunn, and then a couple different things in regards to aspects of DC Studios, which we're still not sure about based off what we talk about, but it gives some sort of inkling, at least in regards to some discussions that have or have not happened. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts on all this stuff. Always curious to read. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show your support, everything like that, drop a like on the video. It takes 2 seconds. So the first thing to talk about actually involves Peacemaker. Now, this is a show which came out, I think 2 years ago. I think Peacemaker came out 2 years ago or just over 2 years ago. I think it was. I don't think it was the beginning of last year. I feel like it was the beginning of 2 years ago. But anyway, if it's 2 years ago, that's crazy. It was that long ago. But of course, Peacemaker Season 2 was something that was announced. But when James Gunn came in to be the co-head of DC Studios, it put a question mark on it until when he announced, what was happening, that it actually was going to get a Season 2. It was just going to be one of those weird circumstances where there is a massive gap between seasons. Sometimes you might get it with a season 3 and 4, like Stranger Things and stuff, because it was also the COVID thing that happened there. But for it to be between seasons 1 and season 2 of a show that, looks like, it's very well done, but it's also not like a massive budget show at the same time. So it's a bit of a strange circumstance around it. But of course, the whole DC Studios and the change of the guard plays into this long gap between seasons. But over the past couple of days, we actually got the confirmation of the amount of episodes that Peacemaker Season 2 will be having. Now, we assumed it to be roughly around the same as Season 1, but we got news that James Gunn has written up to the end of Episode 7, so at least we have 7 episodes, and that he has 1 to go, that being the finale. So that means 7 plus 1, ding, 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 we got our math correct. That means there is 8 episodes in Season 2 of Peacemaker, and yeah, that falls in line with what it would be. Now, as you sort of get from that, he's written all the episodes, which you already knew was going to be the case. But one thing that he said was going to be the case that probably won't be the case anymore, if I'm just assuming, especially logically, is that he was going to direct all the episodes. That's what he said. In the first season, he directed, I think he might have directed the majority or at least half of the episodes, but he said he was going to direct all the episodes for season 2. But that was before he was in the position he's in now at the co-head of DC Studios. So I don't know if that's going to be the case, but it is only 8 episodes, but it's still a long filming process. That's still 3 to 4 months at the very least of filming, probably, for 8 episodes. But I don't see him directing it, but at the same time, you never know. It just depends logistically, might I say, where it actually films. And in regards to when it might film, Danielle Brooks, who plays Adebayo, I think her name was, or Waller's daughter, she said that they hopes they get into production by the end of the year, but she also didn't seem extremely confident that was the case. It was more like, oh yeah, I hope that we start production by the end of the year, but that's probably not going to be the case, just because I'd assume James Gunn would still want to look over the project, so he'd probably want to be mostly done with Superman Legacy, and Superman Legacy would be done filming by that point, but it'd still be in the post-production stage. So it wouldn't surprise if maybe February, March roughly is where they start filming season 2 of Peacemaker, which would be in 2025, which means it would probably be getting it at the end of 2025. So still a long wait until we get our eyes and ears on Peacemaker Season 2. But the next thing to talk about is that an article came out about characters like Superman, Lois Lane, Batman, Joker, and Wonder Woman entering the public domain. Now, this has been something that's been known for a while. We've just seen a character like Mickey Mouse, or the first version of him, enter the public domain. Then we had Winnie the Pooh and his friends enter only a couple of years before. Of course, this just leads to silly horror movies, which is probably going to be the case with these characters in the DC pantheon that are entering the public domain over the next 10 to 15 years. So all those characters there are entering the public domain over the next 10 to 15 years. Superman and Lois Lane will be the first 2, then Batman, then Joker, then Wonder Woman. So I guess people are writing their crappy scripts already. Now, there was a couple of things that came out with this, is that though people can use characters like Batman and Superman, they can't use things like Man of Steel, Cape Crusader, The Dark Knight, and they can't use the emblems, the respective emblems, the famous emblems that represent Batman and Superman. But let's be honest, if you're making a silly low-budget horror movie just to use the names of Batman and Superman, you probably don't care too much about using the logos. Just the fact that you can dress someone up in a black suit with a bat cowl and or a blue suit with a red cape, and you can call them Superman and Batman and not get in trouble. I think that's probably all that people care about. So I don't know if the emblems is going to be that much of a loss for the people that are going to make these various movies. Now, the same article, I think it was Hollywood Reporter, they claimed that this, and these characters entering the public domain impacted story and character decisions and choices for upcoming DCU projects. And they sort of lasered in on Superman Legacy, and they're saying like some choices in Superman Legacy, I guess in regards to who's around him, are due to this. Now, I don't think that's makes too much sense unless you're talking about the Authority. But even then, I don't know if, like, why would you force the Authority? I think the Authority is mainly in that movie to set up the Authority movie. Now, Gunn has come out and denied the report, and I think it's like a half truth. I think it's like, yeah, these like public domain things aren't impacting the story, but I think it's also like it would definitely be impacting their choices around that time period. Like, I think by the time those characters of Superman, Lois Lane, Batman, Joker, and Wonder Woman have entered the public domain, they'd really, really, really want to make sure that they've set up their versions of those characters. And we know Superman's obviously getting Superman Legacy, and Batman's getting Batman Brave and the Bold. So the only worry there is Wonder Woman. There's the Paradise Lost like show that's going to be happening. We don't know when that's happening, but that's happening. That's like a prequel, but there's no news on a Wonder Woman movie. So that's the only thing they sort of have to speed up if they want to develop that character before the public domain thing. That's probably the only concern, is the Wonder Woman character, because there's no project lined up, and that probably won't happen for at least 5 years, because it hasn't been announced outside of the prequel thing. So it's like a half truth. Like, I don't think it's impacting Superman Legacy, but it'd definitely be in the back of their minds when they're developing certain things and just trying to develop things by a certain point. So it's a watch this space. You don't know what's going to happen, but it'd definitely be something that they'd be wary of. Now, another thing regarding Superman Legacy is that someone asked, I think it was on Threads, because that's where James Gunn seems to be the most active, about Superman Legacy being inspired by Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Now, he said like, oh, it's exactly the same, sort of jokingly. And obviously people picked up on it and went, oh, he's saying that it's exactly like the movie. And then he said that he was like joking about it. Now, we don't know if he's 100% joking, like saying like, no, it's nothing like that movie. But the thing is, it sort of fits if that's the case. Because if you haven't watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, I haven't watched it since I think I was in school. I think I was in school when we watched it, but when I watched it. But that movie is pretty much about a like nice sort of like, Clark Kent Superman type guy, and he gets voted into politics and goes to Senate in Washington, obviously, hence the title Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And as soon as he gets there, he realizes, oh, this isn't as like hunky-dory as I thought it would be. It's incredibly corrupt. And that sort of fits that would be the case with Superman entering the world of superheroes, that he's been doing his own thing, and then he enters it and he sees how other people do their own thing, aka the Authority and maybe some other people, even characters maybe like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl and stuff like that, maybe how they go about doing things. And it almost feels like a bit of like a reverse Kingdom Come to an extent. So it sort of fits. So I think it's still going to be an inspiration. It's just not going to be Superman Goes to Washington. That's the thing there. So I think it's like a 50-50 thing, but it's just not going to be exactly the same, which you wouldn't want it to be. You just want it to be some sort of inspiration if that's going to be the case. And I think it fits pretty well. Now, of course, we did have the Crisis animated, or the Crisis on Infinite Earths animated movie event start over the past couple of weeks, and the Crisis animated directors actually don't know if animated movies will actually continue under DC Studios, or at least they're not involved with it. Now, we know we're getting an animated series in the form of Creature Commandos, which will be one of the first DC Studios project we get, which will be coming out at the end of the year, roughly, or at least in the back half of the year. We don't know when exactly, but a lot of people seem to think it'll be around like October, November, which I guess sort of lines up for the most part. But there's no word on animated movies or even any other animated shows. Of course, there is like the Harley Quinn show, and I think there's like a Kite Man spin-off coming out from that, but that's not under James Gunn's like universe, so that's completely different. It's just like the Crisis movie and stuff like that. So they don't know what's happening there, but they did say if they develop any other movies, they'll be Elseworlds, which I think would probably continue anyway, just because it's like they've kept making them anyway, so there must be some profit margin there. So that will just be Elseworlds thing. Now, whether that means they just adapt Elseworlds things like they did with like Gotham by Gaslight and Superman Red Sun, or they're just like their own stories where they're just set in their own individual universe each movie, or another universe starts after Crisis. That's a wait and see. We'll probably learn by the end of Crisis if there's going to be anything else coming our way. The only thing we do know outside of Crisis animated movie-wise is that Watchmen movie, which is coming out this year, We just don't know when exactly. I'd assume they'd probably hold off until they release all 3 parts of the Crisis film or the Crisis movie event until they release Watchmen. So I'd assume like the final third of the year roughly that Watchmen animated movie will drop. But speaking of the Crisis thing, we did get the trailer for part 2 for the Crisis on Infinite Earths, or Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths movie event. I did a video on it, breaking it down. The link will be in the description down below if you want to go check it out and you actually care about it, so feel free to do that. And finally, there was a new logo that came out for Joker 2, aka Joker Folie à Deux. It's pretty basic. I mean, it doesn't really show too much. I've seen some stuff online where people seem to be like trying to judge what this movie's going to be like, and I think it's pretty hard when you don't have a trailer. And I don't know when the first trailer is going to drop. It might be Comic-Con. It might just be like when another big Warner Brothers movie comes out. But yeah, I know we'll have to wait and see when they drop a trailer, because that's really going to be the first inkling. Because this is a musical, or at least part musical, and they can be a bit divisive. So I think that'll be the time when to, judge it, rather than just based off logos and set photos, just because of that aspect of the movie. But I'm looking forward to it, but it's definitely not my top 3 most anticipated things I'm looking forward to this year, but it should be interesting, nonetheless. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts and everything went over. Always curious to read what you guys are thinking. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.